If you see things and you don't like what's happening, law is fantastic because the law is how you stop it from happening.
Hi guys, I'm Olivia. I'm in the 2-year accelerated law course.
My name's Michael and I'm also in the 2-year fast track course.
My name is Giles. I'm a senior lecturer in the law department and I'm also the course leader for the 2-year accelerated course.
So Giles, did you always know that you wanted to work in the legal sector, or what kind of pushed your decision in that direction?
I think for me I didn't always know. I was interested in a number of things when I was young, very, very curious about everything, and then I realised I really enjoyed. I would call it debating, others call it arguing. So I really enjoyed having conversations with people and trying to persuade people, trying to negotiate, even going into politics. If anybody's interested in politics, law is actually a fantastic alternative, because what you will do throughout your career is you'll be negotiating, and you'll be negotiating with your clients, negotiating with people on the other side. So I realised that I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I also really enjoy finding justice. So things that I would see in life really annoyed me. They really pickled me. And if that's what you're like, if you see things and you don't like what's happening, law is fantastic because the law is how you stop it from happening. And so going into the legal sector is how you tackle those injustices. Now, obviously, there's lots of money to be made as well, and that's certainly not a bad side of law. And I'm not saying it wasn't part of the reason I chose to go into the legal sector. It's a very affluent sector, but there's just so much you can do with it. And it definitely obviously suited my own personality.